My name is Richard Hayes. At my son's funeral, his wife looked me straight in the eyes and told me to stop crying, pack my things and leave my own house. What happened after that changed both of our lives forever. Imagine losing your child. Imagine standing beside his coffin, trying to stay strong while your heart breaks into pieces. Then imagine your daughter-in-law calling you a burden in front of everyone. That was exactly what happened to me. But there was one thing she didn't know. The house she was throwing me out of was never hers. I built it with my own hands. The money she believed belonged to her was never hers either. For years she lived comfortably because of choices I made. Yet she treated me like I was living on charity. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I simply walked away. Sometimes silence is stronger than anger. And sometimes the truth works better than revenge. Welcome to Betrayal Revenge Stories. Let me tell you how it all began. The warning signs had been there for years. I just didn't want to see them. 2 months earlier, my son Ethan died in a terrible car accident. The moment he died, his wife, Vanessa, took control of everything. "Don't worry about the funeral, Richard," she said. "I'll handle it." At first, that sounded kind. Later, I realized what she really meant. Stay out of the way. At the funeral home, she made every decision herself. She picked the flowers. She picked the music. She picked the casket. When I suggested Ethan's favorite song, the one we listened to while working around the house together, she quickly shut me down. "That song is too sad," she said. "We need something happier." Happier. As if there was anything happy about burying my son. I sat quietly while she controlled every detail. She walked around in an expensive black dress, speaking confidently to everyone. People listened to her. Meanwhile, I sat alone in an old gray suit. It was the same suit I wore at my wife Helen's funeral 2 years earlier. I felt invisible. The second warning came after the funeral. People gathered at the house. My house. But Vanessa already acted like it belonged to her. She pulled me aside in the kitchen. "Richard, we need to discuss your situation." "My situation?" I asked. "You depended on Ethan financially. Now he's gone." Then she shrugged. "I can't carry that burden." Burden. That word hurt more than she realized. "I've been very generous letting you stay here," she continued. "But this house belongs to me now." I looked at her quietly. She thought my silence meant surrender. It didn't. It meant I was thinking. Because Vanessa had no idea what was actually true. She didn't know Ethan never owned this house. She didn't know every document proving ownership was stored safely downstairs. And she definitely didn't know about the trust. But that part would come later. The funeral guests only saw what Vanessa wanted them to see. A confident young widow taking charge. And an old man who looked lost. I sat in Ethan's favorite chair and listened while she spoke to neighbors. "Richard doesn't really understand money," she told people. "Ethan handled everything for him." Several people nodded sadly. Even some neighbors seemed to believe her. That was when I learned something important. People usually see what they expect to see. Vanessa expected to see a helpless old man. So that was all she noticed. She saw my old car. She saw my simple clothes. She saw my quiet personality. She mistook kindness for weakness. She mistook patience for helplessness. She mistook silence for fear. And that mistake was about to cost her dearly. Since my wife died, I had lived simply. I didn't need expensive things anymore. I didn't care about showing off. Ethan understood that. Vanessa didn't. She judged people by appearances. She believed the loudest person in the room was the strongest. She was about to learn how wrong she was. That evening, after everyone left, she stopped me near the front door. "This arrangement isn't working anymore," she said. I looked around the living room. Every wall held memories. Every corner reminded me of my wife and son. "I understand," I replied softly. But Vanessa had no idea what I really understood. And she had no clue what was coming. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table drinking coffee. I made a list. Not of what I was losing. Of what Vanessa believed she was gaining. The house. The insurance money. The furniture. Everything inside. She thought she had inherited an entire life. But she was wrong. What hurt most wasn't the money. It wasn't even the house. It was how quickly she started erasing our family history. My wife's photos disappeared. Ethan's childhood drawings vanished. Family keepsakes were packed into boxes. "I'm redecorating," she explained. Ethan always wanted updates. Updates? As if memories needed updating. Then she gave me 30 days to leave. 30 days. 30 days to pack up decades of my life. 30 days to disappear. She even printed a schedule. Like I was a tenant being evicted. "November 15th, she said confidently. "That should give you enough time." Then she handed me brochures for retirement communities. You'll like these places. I looked through them. Tiny apartments. Shared dining rooms. Places she thought matched my future. What about food? I asked. What about medical bills? She shrugged. There are government programs. Government programs. Like I was some helpless stranger. Like I had spent my whole life needing help. That was when I realized something. Vanessa didn't just want me gone. She wanted me grateful for being removed. She expected me to thank her. To appreciate her generosity. To accept her version of reality. But I had started seeing things differently. Vanessa had made one giant mistake. She assumed Ethan owned everything. She had lived in the house for 8 years. Yet she had never looked at a deed. Never checked ownership papers. Never asked questions. Why would she? She thought she already knew the answers. She saw Ethan helping me carry groceries. She saw him driving me to appointments. She assumed he was supporting me financially. She never considered the opposite possibility, that I had spent years helping him. If I quietly left, what lesson would that teach? That bullies always win. That confidence matters more than truth. That older people deserve less respect. I couldn't allow that. Not for myself. Not for Ethan's memory. A few days later, Vanessa walked into the kitchen carrying a folder. Richard, we need to discuss finances. I nodded. Okay. She sat down and opened her notes. I need to know exactly how much Ethan was spending on you. I nearly smiled. What do you mean? The mortgage, utilities, taxes, everything. I stared at her. And why do you think Ethan paid those bills? She looked confused. Because obviously he did. Did he tell you that? He didn't have to. She pointed around the room. How else could you afford this place? I remained calm. Did Ethan ever show you mortgage papers? No. Did you ever see tax records? No. Did you ever see ownership documents? No. Her confidence began to crack. I don't need to see them, she snapped. Ethan inherited this house. Did he? Of course. I slowly rinsed my coffee cup. You've made a lot of assumptions. They aren't assumptions. They are. Vanessa stood up. Then prove me wrong. I looked at her. I don't have to prove anything right now. Her face reddened. You have until November 15th. After that, I'm changing the locks. I smiled calmly. We'll see. She stormed out. But she didn't realize something important. That conversation had already revealed everything I needed to know. The next afternoon, I went into the basement. The basement had always been my favorite place. My wife used to joke that I saved every document ever created. Maybe she was right. But those papers were about to become very important. 4 filing cabinets stood against the wall. Everything was organized. Every year. Every payment. Every record. I opened the oldest drawer. Inside was the history of my life. The original land purchase. The building contracts. The permits. The property records. Then I found the document that mattered most. The deed. Owner, Richard Hayes. Only Richard Hayes. No mortgage. No co-owner. No Ethan. No Vanessa. Just me. I kept searching. Property taxes. Insurance records. Utility agreements. Everything carried my name. Year after year. Decade after decade. The evidence was overwhelming. Then I opened another folder. The trust documents. This folder contained something Vanessa never imagined existed. The Hayes Family Trust. Inside were financial records worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Investments. Accounts. Assets. Resources built over many years. I reviewed each page carefully. Then I found another important document. Ethan's life insurance policy. Vanessa believed she would receive that money. She was already planning her future around it. But when I looked at the beneficiary section, I saw exactly what I expected. The beneficiary was the trust. Not Vanessa. The trust. Which meant the money ultimately belonged under my control. I sat there quietly for a long time. Thinking. Vanessa believed she owned everything. In reality, she owned almost nothing she claimed. She had built her future on assumptions. Dangerous assumptions. The question was simple. Should I tell her immediately? Or should I let her keep digging herself deeper? I remembered something an old friend once told me. Sometimes people teach themselves lessons better than we ever could. Vanessa was still teaching herself. And she wasn't finished yet. Not even close. What happened next would change everything. And the biggest confrontation was still ahead. Sunday morning showed me exactly how far Vanessa was willing to go. I was getting dressed for church when I heard voices downstairs. When I walked into the living room, I found Vanessa standing there with 3 of her real estate friends. They were walking through my house like they already owned it. This place has great potential, one woman said. The structure is beautiful. Vanessa smiled proudly. It does have good bones. The decoration is just old-fashioned. Old-fashioned. That was her word for 40 years of memories. Another woman pointed toward the kitchen. You should completely remodel this area. I plan to, Vanessa replied. Richard will be moving out soon, so I'll have total control. Total control. The words hit me harder than I expected. That kitchen was designed by my wife and me. We spent months choosing every cabinet, every counter, every detail. Now Vanessa talked about destroying it like it meant nothing. I walked downstairs. Good morning, I said. The women looked uncomfortable. Vanessa forced a smile. Perfect timing. We're discussing future renovations. Future renovations? I asked. Yes. Once everything is officially mine. I looked directly at her. Is that right? She ignored the question. One of the women smiled politely. Your home is beautiful, Mr. Hayes. Thank you. Vanessa quickly jumped back into the conversation. Richard is moving into a retirement community next month. The women nodded. I looked at Vanessa. Am I? Her smile weakened. We already discussed this. I remember you discussing it. An awkward silence filled the room. The women exchanged nervous looks. Vanessa clearly wanted to move on. Instead, she decided to attack. Richard struggles with finances, she said. He doesn't understand how expensive this house is. I stayed calm. Really? Yes. She crossed her arms. You can't afford to maintain a place this size. How do you know that? Because I'm not blind. She pointed toward the driveway. You drive an old car. Then toward the furniture. You never buy anything new. Then toward me. You lived off Ethan's support. The room became completely silent. Even her friends looked shocked. I felt anger rising inside me. But I controlled it. Ethan supported me? I asked. Yes. How? He paid your bills. Did you ever see him pay my bills? She hesitated. Well? Did you ever see tax records? No. Utility bills? No. Ownership papers? No. Her face began turning red. You're twisting things. No, I said quietly. I'm asking questions. Then Vanessa completely lost control. You were a burden. The words echoed through the room. Her friends looked horrified. A burden? I repeated. Yes. She pointed at me. You depended on Ethan for everything. The cruelty in her voice shocked even her own friends. Then she made her biggest mistake. This house belongs to me now. I slowly nodded. I see. Good. She sounded proud of herself. Then I looked at her friends. Ladies, before you help plan renovations, you may want to ask Vanessa to show you the deed. The room froze. Vanessa went pale. I didn't say another word. I simply walked out the front door. Because I knew what came next. The truth. And the truth was finally ready. The next morning, I met with my attorney. Her name was Laura Bennett. She had handled my legal matters for many years. When I entered her office, 3 folders already sat on her desk. Are you ready? She asked. Yes. She opened the first folder. The deed. She reviewed it carefully. Sole owner, Richard Hayes. She opened the second. 37 years of tax records. Then the third. The Hayes Family Trust. Laura looked up. Vanessa has absolutely no idea, does she? None. She shook her head. She thinks Ethan owned everything. She does. Laura reviewed more documents. The trust balance. The insurance policy. The ownership records. Every paper confirmed the same truth. Everything Vanessa believed was wrong. Then Laura asked an important question. Why did you wait so long? I thought for a moment. Because I wanted to see who she really was. And now? Now I know. Laura nodded slowly. What do you want to do? I want clear boundaries. Meaning? Process the life insurance correctly. Done. Notify Vanessa that she is a tenant. Done. Give her 30 days to leave. Laura smiled. The same deadline she gave you. Exactly. Then I added one more request. I want witnesses. Witnesses. The same people who heard her insult me. Laura understood immediately. This isn't about money. No. It's about respect. Exactly. The next day everything changed. At 10 o'clock that morning, Laura and I walked into Vanessa's real estate office. Vanessa was meeting with clients. She smiled at first. Then she saw Laura. The smile disappeared. Richard. We need to talk. Her clients looked nervous. "I'm busy right now." Laura stepped forward. "I'm attorney Laura Bennett. We need to discuss legal matters concerning Ethan's estate." Immediately, everyone started listening. The office became quiet. Vanessa's confidence disappeared. "What legal matters?" Laura opened her briefcase. "The house." Vanessa crossed her arms. "I inherited the house." "Did you?" "Yes." Laura placed the deed on the desk. "No." Vanessa stared at it. "What is this?" "The deed to 447 Maple Street." Her hands trembled slightly. "No. Richard purchased the property decades ago." "That can't be right." "It is." Vanessa quickly looked through the paperwork. The color drained from her face. "This is impossible." "It's documented." Laura showed additional records. Property taxes. Insurance papers. Utility records. Maintenance contracts. Everything pointed to one person. Richard Hayes. Me. The office remained completely silent. Several agents moved closer. Nobody wanted to miss what happened next. "But Ethan lived there," Vanessa whispered. "Yes." "He paid bills." "No." "He supported Richard." "No." Confusion filled her face. Then Laura revealed the trust documents. The Hayes family trust. Vanessa stared. "What is that?" "The source of much of Ethan's financial support." The room became even quieter. "You're saying Richard supported Ethan?" "Yes." Vanessa looked like she couldn't breathe. Then came the final blow. "The life insurance policy." Her eyes widened. "That belongs to me." "No." Laura showed her the beneficiary paperwork. "The trust." "Not Vanessa." "The trust." Everything Vanessa thought she inherited disappeared in a single moment. The house. Gone. The insurance money. Gone. The future she imagined. Gone. She slowly sat down. Around her, every coworker watched. The same people she had impressed with confidence. The same people who heard her call me a burden. Now they knew the truth. "Richard," she whispered. "I didn't know. You never asked. You could have told me. You could have shown respect." Tears filled her eyes. For the first time she looked small. For the first time she looked uncertain. Laura handed her official paperwork. "You have 30 days to find another place to live." 30 days? The same deadline you gave Richard. Vanessa looked at me. "Can we work something out?" I considered her question. For a moment I thought about Ethan. I thought about Helen. I thought about family. Then I remembered her words. Burden. Charity. Worthless. "No," I said calmly. "Respect isn't negotiable." She lowered her head. And for the first time she understood. The meeting ended. Laura and I walked out together. Behind us the office remained silent. The truth had spoken. And nobody could ignore it. Within days the story spread everywhere. Neighbors talked about it. Friends talked about it. Even people who barely knew us heard about it. One afternoon my neighbor Susan stopped by. "Richard, people are talking." "I know. Vanessa isn't doing well." I listened quietly. Several clients left her. Why? They don't trust her judgment anymore. That made sense. If she couldn't figure out who owned the house she lived in for 8 years, people questioned her professional skills. Soon more news arrived. Vanessa's manager called her into a meeting. Clients requested different agents. Business slowed down. Trust disappeared. And in real estate, trust is everything. Then Ethan's old friend Daniel came to visit. "I owe you an apology," he said. "For what?" "For believing Vanessa." He looked embarrassed. "She told everyone Ethan was supporting you. And you believed it." "Yes." I nodded. "Most people did." Daniel sighed. "We were wrong." Then he smiled sadly. "Ethan used to talk about you all the time." "He did." "He admired you." The words touched my heart. "He always said you taught him responsibility." I looked away for a moment. Sometimes grief arrives unexpectedly. Even months later. "Thank you," I said quietly. A few days later Laura called again. "Vanessa wants to stay in the house." "She does." "She offered rent." "How much?" Laura told me. It was far below market value. I almost laughed. "What did you tell her?" "That she can pay full market rent like everyone else." "Fair." "Exactly." The next day Vanessa declined. She couldn't afford it. So she decided to leave. Soon after, she also left her job. One mistake had changed everything. But the truth was simple. She wasn't losing everything because of me. She was facing consequences because of her choices. There was a difference. 3 weeks later, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, Vanessa stood there holding a box. "Hi, Richard." "Hello." She looked nervous. "I found some things." She handed me the box. Inside were old family photos. Ethan's childhood pictures. Helen's handwritten recipes. Treasures I thought were lost. "Thank you," I said. She stepped inside. The house looked exactly the same. Nothing had been remodeled. Nothing had been destroyed. "It still looks the same," she said softly. "Of course." She looked around. Then tears appeared in her eyes. "Richard, I owe you an apology." "You don't owe me anything." "Yes, I do." She took a deep breath. "I treated you horribly." I remained silent. "I judged you." She looked down. "I assumed things that weren't true." Then she said something that surprised me. "I finally understand where Ethan got his kindness." I felt emotion rising in my chest. "He learned it from you." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The room felt heavy with memories. "He was a good son," I said. "He was. And you were a good father." I nodded slowly. Then she told me about her future. She had found a new job in another city. A fresh start. A new beginning. Before leaving, she asked one final question. "If I had treated you with respect from the beginning, would things have been different?" I thought carefully. Yes. Her eyes filled with tears. "I thought so. We could have helped each other." She nodded. "Instead of fighting." "Yes. Instead of fighting." Vanessa picked up her purse. Then she smiled sadly. "I finally learned something." "What?" "Respect really isn't negotiable." "No. It isn't." She thanked me and walked toward the door. Then she left. I stood there quietly, thinking about everything that had happened. The funeral, the insults, the lies, the assumptions, the truth, and the lessons. Vanessa learned that appearances can be deceiving. She learned that arrogance can destroy opportunities. She learned that respect matters. But I learned something too. Being quiet doesn't mean accepting disrespect. Being kind doesn't mean being weak. And standing up for yourself doesn't require anger. Sometimes all you need is the truth. The house remained mine. The memories remained mine. And most importantly, my dignity remained mine. As I sat down with Ethan's photo album, I smiled. I knew my wife would have understood. I knew my son would have understood too. Because they both knew something Vanessa learned the hard way. The strongest people in the room are often the quietest. They don't need to prove their power. They simply wait for the truth to speak. And when it finally does, everyone listens. This was Richard's story.